Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 358. If I were a communist. Now, I don't know if everybody knows the history of communism and capitalism and Christianity and non Christianity, but communism was an economic movement founded by Karl Marx and Peter Engel. They wrote their Communist Manifesto. If you've never read it, it's a quick little read. And it makes a lot of sense if you're demented. I mean, if you're a liberal or a socialist or any millennial in this country for the most part. But it actually is a good read. And really, if you want to hate communists, you should actually read it and understand it. And when I say hate communists, battle them intellectually and honestly. And if they step up to usurp your rights, that you can crush them like the pigs they are. Because literally, they would throw you in sausage factories and make you into sausage if you're a God-fearing Roman Catholic. That's what they did. Last century is proof of it. The overthrowing the Tsar, the Gulag Archipelagos. You can actually read that book by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Mao Zedong's China, Pol Pot, you name it. And the whole Mexican communist revolution that occurred slaughtered 200,000 Catholics. Anyway, the Cristeros. All that being said is communists are not the friends of Roman Catholics for the most part. Some of them can feign that they like Roman Catholics, but if they could have authority over you, they will claim it. That's what communism does. It's actually the domination of your fellow man. They want to control your financial lives, your liberty, your freedoms, your liberties, your ability to speak, your ability to think, your ability to defend yourself, your ability to form a future independent of them. That's what communists want. And part of the necessity of this is that they can take away your right to worship and take away your God. Like Lenin said that the religion is the opioids of the masses. I can think of no worse opioid of that you're not worthy of heaven and that you need to make yourself better. That doesn't sound like an opioid to me. I think Lenin was wrong. I think a lot of what Lenin preached is a genuine opioid, like sports and like circuses and whatever else to keep the people entertained. But all that being said, is religion, if you take it seriously, like a good Roman Catholic should, religion should be the opposite of an opioid. It should really make, it really should be therapeutic in terms of changing you into being a better person. But all that being said is, if I were a communist, and oh, by the way, so what happened was after World War II, it was the Stalin's Russia was part of the Allied forces. We had Churchill's England, we had, FDR's America. And we were all battling against the Nazi German machine, which was quite powerful. And when we got out of it, we were the Allied nations. And what did we do? Well, at Yalta, we handed over almost the entire Eastern Bloc of European nations over to the communists. They won, essentially. The commies won the whole damn thing. America held the bill to pay for the Marshall Plan and the rebuilding of Europe, which the Nazis and the communists destroyed, essentially. And so, the communists won. And well, anyway, so after that, we started something called the Cold War, which was not a hot war. A hot war is a shooting war. That was against the Nazis. But a Cold War was essentially a propaganda war and a military buildup war against the Soviets. And because of that, we fought other wars. We fought the Korean War on the Korean Peninsula. We fought the Vietnam War. We were down in Central America, Noriega, El Salvador, and so on and so forth. And we were fighting these little, tiny little battles and these little military police actions all over the globe, trying to end the spread of communism throughout the globe. So what happened was, economically, Russia became destroyed in the 80s. The wall fell, which was the Iron Curtain, and communism just disappeared from the planet. Or did it? No, it still exists in North Korea, exists in Vietnam, and exists in China. There's still communist nations out there for sure. But we all thought that the communist threat went away. Well, the bottom line is communists are not short-term planners. Capitalists tend to be short-term planners. Communists are long-term planners. They're in it for the long game. They may have given up in Soviet Russia, but they certainly did not give up their dreams, because communism will always be in the hearts of men. And when I say communism, I mean the desire and the want to dominate your fellow man. We see it all over this nation in America that, half or 60+% of the millennials want to be socialists. Well, what the heck does that mean? Socialism is just communism without disarming a population. Once you disarm the population, you can have your way with them. Socialists, we won't control you too much. Yes, you will. You for sure will. You just can't, and I won't let you. But so if I were a communist, what would I do? Well, I would throw my capitalistic enemy. I would try to destroy it, essentially. I would try to destroy it through fear and from within. That's what the whole Freemasons and communist playbook always has been. And so they may have come up with the perfect plan here, people, COVID-19, that they released this virus upon the planet, which may or may not be bad, right? I mean, it's obviously not good, but it may or may not be as fatal or deadly as everybody thought, and create a lot of hysteria and fear in the populations that it affects. Oh, by the way, they can use their communist arms of the Politburo, like CNBC and MSNBC and Fox News and all the major news medias in America to get everybody riled up in an hysteria where they give up their rights. And they start demanding that the executives of the states protect them. That's what I would do if I were a communist. Well, anyway, and so the executives then protect them by clamping down on their rights and usurping their rights to labor, their rights to speech, their rights to freedom of assembly, their rights to, you name it. You could go through the list. Almost the entire United States Bill of Rights has been suspended by this virus, which means if you can suspend the U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights by a virus which is no deadlier than the common seasonal flu, well, then you could suspend the United States Constitution Bill of Rights any point in time that you want, which means that the Bill of Rights really means nothing. It's only when somebody wants to flip a switch. The other thing is that the World Health Organization is an avowed communist organization. So is the United Nations, right? And so is the CDC of the Communist Party of China. Well, all the information about the virus came from them, and it all funneled into the American media. And then the American media went like this. It was just a puppeteer to the American politician, and the American politician took its marching orders from foreign communist entities without data gathering first. Like I was on this YouTube channel early on saying, let's find out what the data is and act appropriately. We had no data. Well, anyway, it's turning out, the Stanford study, they're finding out that this is all over the United States of America. It's more widespread than we thought it was. Like half of a homeless camp in Boston has it. Nobody's symptomatic. About 80 times the infection rate in Stanford than we expected. A lot of people are symptomatic. And the death rate is somewhere between 0.1 and 0.3% of the population, which is about that of the seasonal flu. Maybe perhaps a bad flu season. Bottom line is this, I'm going to give another prediction. That death rate is going to drop once all the data points are in, when we realize that the widespread viral illness is actually more widespread than even the Stanford study shows, because the antibody studies do lag the infection rates, and therefore I think it's probably maybe 200 times. I bet you, using my numbers and my calculations, somewhere between 40 and 50 million people in America already have this virus. And what are they saying? About 50,000 dead so far. That's a very low death rate, about 0.1%. And perhaps it's even lower than that. And that's my suspicion that's going to happen. Well, anyway, so what's America do? Like, we were actually looking at China. What were they using? They were shutting off their entire economies. They were using drones to police people and surveil people and looking at skin temperatures. And they were saying that they could actually identify sick people from like a couple hundred yards away using drone technology. And we in America were like, holy cow, I can't believe the surveillance police state that's present over in China. Well, what immediately happened in America? The governors ordered these things from the Chinese, all the technology to actually surveil their population. And so we're actually accepting the help of China how to institute a police state here in America, which means they won. Literally, there's very little claim that Americans can have to their liberty in this pandemic right now. That if the United States of America is asking China for help on how to become a police state, and everybody's willing to actually comply with it, that should bother everybody dramatically. Like, what on earth, people? I mean, we're living in 1984 right now, and everybody in America right now is actually asking for us to become a surveillance police state in a communist nation. The other thing that they did was, by the way, so we have a market economy. China, well, they have market economy now too, but they're still a communist police state. How do you take down a market economy? Well, you centralize it. That's what you do. Like, the reason why China became so economically viable like 30 years ago is they decentralized their economy and they allowed people to make individual decisions. Well, so what have we done? Well, We have so much authority bound up into the state in America right now that they could tell us what we can do and what we can't do. Like we actually have to ask permission or say, excuse me, sir, do you mind if I go cut somebody's hair? Well, no, you can't. We say you can't because we're the government. Really? Like, does that sound like America to you? It doesn't sound like America to me. And like you have cancer care, right? So you have a liver tumor or something like that, or you have a brain tumor. Oh, you can't go to the hospital and get routine care. Why not? Because we're on lockdown because there's no non-emergent cases in America. Really? Like you can't even surveil cancer. So does that sound like a police state to you? It sounds like a police state to me, you know. And so you can't get haircuts, you can't go out and eat in restaurants, you can't go to concerts, you can't, you know, you name it. And it's all for the good of humanity. Is it really? Like C.S. Lewis said, the greatest tyranny that will ever be invoked is one that is like asked for the people. You just got to convince the people they want it. And so that's what we did. And so bottom line is this, I am very fearful for my country, but there are some patriots stepping up, particularly in Michigan, but all over the nation, people are starting to protest their state houses, and now the governors are getting the message. The bottom line is this. The difference between China and America right now, one, we have a political system that's somewhat viable. I mean, we do. Maybe it's not. I don't even know if it is, frankly. It seems like you vote for one, you get the same thing. You vote for another, you get the same thing. Like we can't change policy in America at all, but we can change our political parties. In China, you can't change the political parties, but they keep changing policy all the time. And that's why you went from their oppressive, tyrannical communist regime to the regime they have now, which the communists allow the people to have some of their labors, you know. And so where was I going with that? Boy, I lost my train of thought. Nonetheless, just want to say this, is that if you're a communist, the way you control a population of people is have the state form edicts upon the people. Oh, this is the point I wanted to make. Just wait. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. When riots start breaking out in America, because food riots are going to occur, there's 9 meat processing plants that are shut down in America right now. Food shortages potentially will come. I mean, the American capital system is quite good and it might solve these problems. But if people start getting hungry, which I suspect they're probably going to do, and you start getting some riots, or somebody lobs a bullet into one of these rallies at a state house, that's all it's going to take. And this tinderbox could actually blow up. And then the state could actually say, whoa, we can't have these people rioting with firearms and actually willing to use them. And so the call for the firearms may come. The difference between the communists, this is what I want to say, the difference between the communists and the Americans is they're disarmed. That's all. You think we're morally superior to the Chinese communists right now? No, they still have fight in them. Like America, we just rolled over and died. Like the only difference between the communists anywhere in America right now is that Americans are armed, and we have literally a courageous 3% of our population that's willing to step up and say no. And that's all it's going to take. So if they come and they start saying, hand over your firearms, this is going to be a firestorm. And I think they'll get the message loud and clear. There's no way America's going to roll over and become a communist nation. I mean, we may be acting like sheeple right now, but we're not. So anyway, this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, pray the daily rosary. And oh, by the way, I hear we're going to have parking lot confessions next week, and also they may open the church for prayer. Okay, God bless you all. Take care.